Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of Fundraising Day 2011. We're at the Marriott Marquis in New York City. My guest right now is Scott Barnett, and Scott's seminar topic is the art of conversion. Scott is director of web communications at Fairfield University and has a diverse, extensive background in both academia and business. Again, the art of conversion. Scott Barnett, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tony, for having me.
Your conversion, what are we converting?
Well, website users into donors in this case, or visitors, or sales, or people that visit your site. You want to have them either tour, visit, talk to you, contact you, because the sites can manage and collect information on them that we can't do with other mediums.
Okay, now at Fairfield University, I assume the web users are mostly alumni?
Well, mostly on the admissions side for getting students first.
Oh, this is for the admissions. Okay.
The things that make things go around are basically students first.
Okay.
And then after that, alumni and donors and the public as well. And, you know, most colleges have a pretty strong athletics presence as well. So you get a diverse set of visitors, including then your faculty and staff that come to the site and your current students. So we've got to take that multitude of audiences and sort of track what they do on the site,
right,
and for the different purposes. And then we have clients, so to speak, in our agency model that we work with at the university that have different needs. Admissions has one need, advancement has a different need for their users, and athletics has another need.
Let's talk about the younger people then. So you have to engage 17-year-olds on the web, 17, 18-year-olds?
Earlier than that, actually.
Okay.
It starts
how
as
young?
early as 13, which in reality, by law, you can't collect information about anyone under the age of 13 anyways online, and that's the COPPA Act. But
okay.
We basically, and let's be clear here, we're not collecting information about you, Tony Martignetti.
Well, I'm too old.
Yes.
You're not interested in somebody my age.
There's not anything personal about you until you give that up, meaning fill out a form or donate or do something that actually collects that information. But the mere act of visiting the site and moving around through the site is anonymous other than by IP address and other information that then is gleaned from that IP address. We can tell generally the part of the country you're from, the provider that you came through. And that information is helpful, but what we really want to know is, where did you go on the site? When did you leave us?
Yeah.
Did you make it to the point on the site where we wanted you to? So you set up goals and you try to convert them to finish those goals.
Okay, we'll get to that part.
Sure.
Once they get to there. But how about engaging? Let's talk about the 16 to 18-year-olds. How are you attracting them to the Fairfield admissions?
That's the magic bullet.
Okay, well, share some magic.
We presently just put up a very interesting online tour. Now, everybody's got their online tour in the college business, and it's usually a staid and proper voiceover narration, nice voice like yours, or someone speaking about all the beautiful pictures and great academics and great athletics and all the other things we have. And we've got a lot of that on the site, but we decided to make a tour that really spoke socially from the students to the students. So through the eyes of a student, we created a series of videos of them waking up in the morning, going to class, a typical day in the life kind of thing.
So the lesson is, and tell me if I'm oversimplifying, but you're attracting people of a certain age by using people close to that age to attract them.
While we want to direct the campaigns and we want to have the kind of creative ideas, it's proven in today's internet world that there's a sort of peer-to-peer conversation going on. We see that all over. And letting them speak to each other about the experience of being a student, speak to other students, what their interests are and whether this place is right for them. Because it's a big decision to go to college, and it's really important for students to pick the right schools. We want them to pick us, but we also want them to be getting the right information. So the adults in the room, so to speak, have lots of good information to put out there, but we also want them hearing information from their peers, and that's why we do things like this. And believe me, it's slightly reality TV, but there's no magic behind the box. It's segments in a day that we've selected and such, but they're presented through the eyes of a student.
And then after you have the student now at the site, how do you keep them engaged and coming back? Again, that, let's say, 16 to 18-year-old
right.
segment.
Well, the public site on the .edu side is really a marketing vehicle to get people information about the school, about our news and our events. So there's a lot of information on one particular site, as Students 411, that's really in tone and approach about them. We also created a space called Fairfield Live, which is a social media space where we post videos, have a weekly announcement video that's done by a couple kids from the campus about what's happening that weekend. Again, the idea of peer-to-peer conversations, and try to get them coming back to find out about events both through 411 and Fairfield Live. The potential admittee or potential applicant is brought into some systems we have where they then become a contact, and in that sense we develop them as a prospect, and that there's a lot of communications that happen back and forth between the parents and the student and the admissions department, both in person. The best indicator for kids going to college today is their campus visit.
Okay.
So you really want to convert them to contacting you and showing up.
Coming live.
Right.
All right. I know a big part of your seminar topic is using Google Analytics
Correct.
to track how you're doing. And part of what you say in the materials is don't be afraid of mountains of data. So so understanding that the audience for the show is small and mid-sized nonprofits,
Sure.
Which Fairfield may or may not fit into. Could be a mid-size to large, right?
In the college world,
All right.
That's what they'd call
Mid-size.
us.
So what's your sort of opening advice for using Google Analytics and not being overwhelmed by it?
Well, it has more than enough data for you to spend your time hiring people to sit there and cull through data.
Yeah.
But it's really drilling down to what's useful to you, and you create goals and objectives for any piece of communications. And the internet.
You know what? Before we get into that, how would someone just get started with Google Analytics? How do you find the analytics
you get
tools?
yourself a Gmail account. You have to have, and they might have relaxed that, but you get a Gmail account. You visit google.com/analytics, and then you sign in.
Okay.
And then you've got an account. You then need to set it up for your various domains. So in our case, .edu plus all of the subdomains, the various departments and things underneath it that we find interesting.
Good, that's helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so please.
So the data itself, you can really, really get lost in the data of Google Analytics, but the real key is understanding what is your goal with the particular communications. Everything needs a pitch. Okay, but we need to be able to use analytics to analyze that pitch. What's working in that pitch? And let's say you create a 3-4 page experience on the site. You really want to be able to follow that user and find out, why is everybody leaving on the 3rd page and not making it to our contact page? And by the data itself is not useful to you unless you analyze and react. Okay, and it create that same communication cycle we know from the business of where you have to basically communicate, get audience feedback, and then change the communications to adapt to that. That's exactly the same thing going on here, except the fact is with the internet, we really can rate the success and failure of certain types of campaigns and experiences on the web by having that tracking all along the steps of the experience.
Okay. And I think you have very good advice too. The data is only as good as your use of it and your reaction to it.
Right.
You have to tweak.
And it takes a lot of training. I mean, we've worked with some consultants, and we ourselves have sought out a lot of good, valuable training material on Google Analytics so that we could understand what's going on. And that's just my department in web communications. So then we went out and took all of our account managers in our division and trained them about the reports. What does the report mean? When your client comes to you and says, "Oh, tell me how many people are coming to our website and how many are visiting, our department," they know how to look at the data and not get lost in the multitudes of pages that are in Google Analytics. Just look, create the report they need, and be able to then sit down and discuss the conversions that are going on, what steps might be taken to adapt and change the material to make it more useful to the user.
Now, for a small and mid-sized shop, do you think the tools that are on Google Analytics alone are sufficient for a charity to navigate this mountain of data once they collect it?
Yeah.
I mean, do they have to have a consultant and training outside what Google offers?
Google has a lot of its own training that's in there that's very good. We found it necessary to speak to a consultant because we really wanted to draw out of it a lot of different things. But I think that most companies can get it in at the level that at any level, and use Google's materials to get a lot of training and know-how. You've got to spend the time with any software, and that's really what it is, a software as a service. You've got to spend the time on training on it, or it's a waste of money. Well, in this case, it's no money. So it doesn't cost you anything to do Google Analytics except your time to learn a little bit about how you can use it. And I think that that's the key there, is that the end user, whether it's a mom and pop shop running a little site, or whether it's a big, Uber University up there, everybody's cost conscious, and this way you're getting something for free that has got a wealth of data. It's really how you look down through it and decide, have I created goals, have I created objectives, and am I following those? And whether you want to know if someone from Uzbekistan came to your site or not, you can do that too, but you can be wasting your time if that's not your target customer.
Right. What about the standard social media, Facebook, Twitter? Again, let's focus on...
Somehow I knew you were going to ask
Well,
that.
Eventually, yeah. But let's focus still on the younger. I think this is interesting because I don't get many guests who are talking about engaging teenagers, 16 to 18, let's say. What's your advice for the small nonprofit around Facebook?
Well, again, the magic bullet is Facebook's overwhelming success in the last 2 to 3 years really made it imperative that you have some presence there. But you need to manage that presence and understand that everybody knocking on your door and saying, we need a Facebook page for this, we need a Facebook page for that, for each individual campaign or something. That's not a good use of resources when you're a small shop.
It does become unmanageable, and then you end up with a bunch of stale pages.
It's a site that people have to contribute. Content is king, with all of this. And look,
and repeated continual content.
Great. Now, but what we've seen there is, you've seen some good reaction to causes on this social media. When people do cause-related things, they do well. I think this younger audience reacts to that. Us as a company and larger companies that are selling products, I'm not so big on the I like nameless brand of soda here or something, so we don't get in trouble. But the point being, I'm not so sure that but I think today's younger set doesn't think the way we think about that, in terms of brand association. So it's a little different, and that's the juggling act you have to do. And I think nonprofits, obviously, the kids are into causes. They are a much more involved group. I think we may have grown up thinking we were very involved, but I didn't do most of my charitable work until I was out of college. But I see a group of kids now from high school on up that are very usually, there's a good percentage of them are involved in things. So that's appealing to their nature in social media about the cause rather than the give, I think. And not being the fundraising professional at our organization, I won't speak to whether that's scientific or not, but I'm seeing the trend be that they are attracted to sites that are about the causes, and then from that, I'm sure you're able to glean and pull through the conversations you create some charitable giving and giving of time. Because sometimes what you're looking for out of that group is volunteerism.
Oh, yeah, because they're so passionate and motivated.
Right.
They will give generously of their time. Yeah.
But they're on it all the time. And my test lab is the 14 and 16-year-old I have at home, who spend all their time on their phone and their computer on Facebook, sometimes to my chagrin, because it's just kind of, But if that's what they're doing, you need to focus your communications to them and not have it be the man talking to them. And that's why we've worked on this key peer-to-peer conversations, looking at ways to engage students that work for us to speak to them, whether it be for a cause or whether it be for something like advancement or admissions or athletics. We use students all at those levels. In fact, our library's Facebook site is operated by a student. Yes, the powers that be in the library are there and sometimes push things out to them to put out there. But the conversations that are going on, that's the important thing about Facebook and Twitter, is making it a conversation. It's not just boom, boom, boom press release. And hey, we suffer from that sometimes too. We'll put them all out there, but we also want to get in there sometimes. And for instance, we introduced this year, it's off the fundraising topic, but at our athletics games, tweeting during the games and Facebook during the games, because there is a core of alumni out there that follow us out there. They might be in California and they're not listening to the internet cast of the game or didn't pay for the video of the game, and they'll jump in and have a conversation with us about it. And we look at that as sort of being color guys. I said, imagine yourself sitting there and we're having a conversation about the game, because that's what we're not doing play-by-play. Nobody wants Twitter play-by-play. But we have a conversation about what's happening, and I think we're going to introduce that this year to different types of events, not just athletics.
Right, and I think there's value there for the audience. Yes.
Right.
So your constituents who can't be with you can follow.
And they've chosen that medium. That's what they're doing to follow you. So it's almost disrespectful in some ways to not give them some content besides just pushing at them, like I said, press releases and other information.
Now, my social, in fact, I was going to interrupt you because my social media manager is here, Regina Walton, and she is live tweeting. Right, Regina? We're live tweeting to our followers. Well, not this second, but we are during the day, giving them the content.
Awesome.
No, not this second.
Right.
Are you finding more penetration among teenagers in Twitter? There was a time when it was 40 or 50 and over.
I also teach an internet marketing class now and then on the side. And last year we asked them and said, hey, how many in the room are aware of Twitter? And these are kids in marketing that were going to go into this business, and 3 hands went up. But now...
Did you only have 4 people in your class?
No.
You're not a very popular teacher?
No, 25. It was 25. But, doing that part-time, I was able to see that they were aware of it as a medium, but to them it didn't hold much luster. But now, I'd say just even 6 months later, that was just last, 2 semesters ago, there seems to be a great interest in our student affairs department and other areas of using Twitter, because the immediacy of it and the ability to do it in 140 characters or less appeals to both the presenter and the receiver. And I think that once they've caught on to that...
140, by the way.
140, okay. Okay. Well, I want to stretch it out a little bit.
Oh, well, no, you want to be shorter. You want to...
I wish I could do it in 99 words.
Okay.
Most people who meet me want me to do it in 99 words or less.
Scott, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank Scott Barnett very much from Fairfield University for being a guest. We're at this is Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of Fundraising Day 2011 at the Marriott Marquis. Scott, thank you very much
Tony.
for being a guest.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.